of reading. Today we are going to talk about comparing and contrasting that structure of text, and it's kind of interesting, comparing a mule-drawn cart to a train. You will need these things again. Your developing nation book, if you have it, otherwise you can pull it up on benchmark thing from Symbol. Your Unit 7 reading packet, and we'll be on lesson 6 over here, Building Transcontinental Railroad. Pencil and a highlighter. Highlighter, if you have your packet, if you have your booklet, you can't really highlight your computer screen. You could, but I don't suggest it. Okay? Here we go. Okay, you should be on page 2 in your packet. Comparing and contrasting chart. We're comparing a mule-drawn coach ride with a railroad journey. And I'm sure even just reading these, you can already picture in your head some things that are going to be quite different between riding in from donkeys and mules, technically, donkey horses, than a railroad journey. But we will fill this out. We will be on page 19 of our reader. And we're not using the main reader, we are using this extra graphic feature. This isn't really describing our text here, but it's giving you some extra information. So this is called American Travelogue. In his book Roughing It, 1872, American author Mark Twain describes the 1861 trip west before the railroad was built. He traveled by mule-drawn coach from St. Joseph, Missouri to Carson City, Nevada in only 21 days. So, that's our little background. So this chunk, he's describing his mule-drawn coach ride, right? And it took place in the year 1861. See how it is 1861 back there? Sorry, just turn here. So as we go, I'm going to fill out this. I'm trying to get both bars here. So date of travel, mule-drawn coach. We already know, we just read it. 1861. So for date of travel, I'm going to write 1861. I'll do this one with you, and you're going to do the railroad journey by yourself. Where travel started, I'm going to go back and look for that again. It says he traveled by mule-drawn coach from St. Joseph, Missouri to Carson City. So, travel started at St. Joseph. Let's see it. Missouri. Direction traveled. This is trip west. Missouri to Carson City. Go back here just to show you. So Missouri's over here. You can't even see it on here. Carson City, Nevada is in Nevada, obviously, so he's going west. It already says west, you know that. He's going west. Then it wants the distance traveled. Once we figure that out, we traveled Missouri in 21 days. So I'm not going to skip this one. I haven't saw the answer yet, but I do know it took 21 days. Now I'm going to keep looking for distance traveled and how the ride felt. So it says, the coach shot off from the station as if from a cannon. He was like, the mules really took off. It was a fierce and furious gallop, till we reeled off 10 or 12 miles. So we flew along all day until we landed at Fort Kearny, 56 hours from St. Joe, 300 miles. So distance travel was 300 miles. And how it felt. He describes it. He says, shot from the station as if from a cannon. It was a fierce and furious gallop. So, I'm going to write that in there. Shot. And take it from the text and put quotation marks around it. Shot from the station. And then have some ellipses here. As if. From a cannon. And then fast and furious gallop is what he said. So when I read that, I can picture this was not a relaxing ride. I'm picturing him fast and furious going over bumps and things. He was probably not getting a lot of rest. Now what you're going to do is you're doing the same thing with a railroad journey. So here's the railroad journey chunk. The one thing I will help you with is of the exact time it says describes the railroad journey took about 10 years later. So if this was 1861, this was about 10 years later, sometime in the 1870s, maybe 1871. So you'll read through here, you'll find where he started, which direction he went, distance he traveled, how long it took, and then how the ride feels. What words describe how the ride feels? And I'm actually going to skip ahead to this one, how the ride felt. I just see some words that really stick out. Luxurious coaches, fastest living. So those are some things you can use when you know how the ride felt. So the reason we compare and contrast is it gives us a better picture in our mind, right? I can think about, okay, this journey took 21 days to go 300 miles. Now I'll read and figure out how long it took to go on his railroad journey, and then just how he describes it. It can give you a better picture into the history and the importance of the railroad back then. So your job is to finish this, and there really are no IXLs, new ones. I was describing to you yesterday, you're still working on J9 and J11. So, yeah, here we go. Okay, so I talked about the IXLs you're working on yesterday. You're still finishing J9, J10, J11. Just a quick review, that's who, whom, whose, which, and that. And yeah, if you get confused, you can go to the preview one again, or you can read, if you get an answer wrong, you can on purpose, you can go through and read them. The main things are who ties in with his, or no, not his, she, he, they. Whom is him, hers, his, them. We use a whose if it is ownership. Ms. Hogan, whose hair is usually kind of messy. It gives an extra description. Which is if you don't really need that. You'd say like, Miss Hogan is the teacher. Which, no, that doesn't make any sense. Forget that one. That is something you need. So you could say like, Miss Hogan is a teacher that teaches 4th grade. That would make sense. When you have a witch, a witch, no, witch, W-H-I-C-H, witch. Anyway, which is which? This witch, this one right here, is usually has a comma. It's not necessary. So we talked about that yesterday. Like, they were at Heartland Park, which has a slide. You don't need which there because you already know it's Heartland Park. That is if it is necessary. So I would say like they are at a park that has a slide. Which wouldn't really matter. The park's down around here, but anyway. So working on those 9, 10, 11 to 80%, and do tomorrow. One more thing. You should have some extra time today. Why don't you read? Read something. Anything. Okay? Yeah. Read.